I'm Mark Boris, and this is Straight Talk. Michael Katsidis, welcome, mate, to Straight Talk.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very privileged to have you sit in front of me like this, mate.
Privileged to be here.
Turn it up. Right, mate. Okay. We've got a lot to cover.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm a boxing student. Tragic. I love the game.
Yeah.
But there's lots to talk about, particularly in relation to your career. But probably importantly, take me back to, I don't know, Midwest, I don't know what you call it, Queenslander, Toowoomba, I don't know, that's up in the Tablelands, isn't it?
Yeah, Toowoomba.
Yeah, take me back to who Michael Katsidis was as a young kid. I mean, I know you boxed from a very young age, amateur.
Yeah.
Was your dad a boxer? What's the deal?
No. So Dad comes from Greece.
Yep.
He was born there. He's from a very small village called Ataraki. It's near Larissa. So, which is 3 hours inland from Athens. So he come over here when I think he was like 20 years old, something like that. And married mum, she's from Moree. And
He married a Moree girl.
Yeah, mum, yeah. But they were very young. And they had my brother and I. There's 18 months difference between Starthy, my older brother. We went on to go into our respective sports. Well, I was later born in Toowoomba. So I was born and bred out of Toowoomba. And got into the boxing. My brother got into the horse racing. We both.
Could I just stop you there? Staffy was older than you, but was he born in Toowoomba too?
No, he was actually born in Moree.
Born in Moree, yeah. And then your folks moved up to Toowoomba.
That's right. And I was born 18 months later. That's right.
Yeah, and you just said Staffy went into the jockey.
Yeah,
game.
we just went into the
but
sport.
As young kids?
Yeah. So like a sport of kings, really.
Why did you choose
boxing and racing? I think it's the adrenaline, like the adrenaline rush that you get from the sports and just the challenge. Like I remember being just a little kid, and Dad used to go and help a lot of people that couldn't afford to have their graves completed and that. So we had some old people that lived in our neighbourhood, and he'd talk to them and he'd learn that, he was a concreter by trade. So then we'd spend like days on end, like on the weekends, Dad would go and help these people do love jobs basically. And we were there in these graveyards till late at night, and not late at night, but till dark basically, which is late enough in the graveyard. And Dad'd be finishing off these stone heads for people's graves. Yeah, but there was these old brumbies in there.
like charity thing?
Just to help, just love jobs to people who hadn't been able to get, proper graves complete for their parents and stuff. This is going back like 40, like 35 years ago at least, so 38 years. But there's all these brumbies in the graveyard, and we jump on the horses and we just ride them. And like, I just, no way, not doing this.
Bareback?
Bareback, yeah, just jump on them. And my brother would just hang on, and he would just go. He would just go. He would fly. He was fearless, always fearless. And my grandfather, my mum's father, he's passed, but he was a jockey and also a horse trainer as well. Being Toowoomba has Australia's first ever twilight racing in Toowoomba, so very popular industry. Starthy he was 12 years of age. He'd go to be cleaning out stables, and he'd work for these different people, and just very much involved in the game. So from a very young age, he was always destined to be a jockey. That was what he was always going to do.
But he knew it.
He just knew that's what he wanted to do. He didn't finish school. I think he stepped out grade 9. He stepped out, and then he just become an apprentice, and just I remember him being a little kid ringing people, just 13, 12 years old. Oh, it's Starthy Katsidis calling. I was wondering if you need a jockey for the weekend, and he'd ring up. He was just he just keep on going at it and going on it, and then he went on to be one of Australia's greatest horse riders. So,
Michael, just give me a little bit of a sense though of Toowoomba. However long ago it was, a long time ago now, but give me a sense of what Toowoomba was like. I mean, you got a Greek father, Aussie mum. Your Greek father would probably stand out like the proverbial in somewhere like Toowoomba. They're all real Aussie guys, I guess. Yeah, and then you got two half castes. One wants to be a stable hand and turn into a jockey one day, and the other one's maybe going to become a boxer. Might not have worked that out. When Starthy was 12, you wouldn't have worked that out. Yeah. But like these two boys roaming around the joint, give me a bit of a sketch of what it would look like.
Look, Dad was a very hard worker. So he was a concreter, and he had a lot of people working for him as well. excuse me. We were just very dedicated guys, like to our sport, and I think we, for us to receive any sort of gratitude, we would just work really hard and do really. So we always were pushed. Our parents would always take us to sports, and we'd play soccer. We'd play a lot of soccer, and whatever it is, activities we get. Mum and Dad would always take us to it. So, but in Toowoomba, for us, we would blend in and but Toowoomba's it's a beautiful place, beautiful people, country town. Now it's actually a city. It's grown over the years, but back when we were living there would have only been like 80,000 to 100,000 people. Now I think there's like up to 200, 250,000 people in Toowoomba.
It's quite a wealthy area too.
Well, yeah, it has per capita has for a long time had the largest amount of millionaires.
Oh, really?
In a per capita, yeah.
Probably coming from grazing families or
yeah. So
prime production.
So like a lot of the people, yeah, that's exactly right. So people that have big properties and all that, and then because I end up having the luxury of being able to go to a boarding school later on to complete high school, but
in Toowoomba or in Brisbane?
Yeah, Downlands College in Toowoomba, and a lot of the kids I was a day goer, so I'd go by day and I'd go home by night. But a lot of people were from wealthy families on farms that they would want to send their kids into town for proper schooling. They'd send them to Toowoomba, go to Downlands or grammar school.
Not many boxers can say they've got a background going to a good school.
Yeah, and that's just
how'd you get that?
Yeah, well, that's
sporting thing or
no? Yeah, so scholarship was one avenue that we could have went along, but like boxing hasn't really been an accepted sport. Like we're going back a while now. Like I graduated in 1998. Boxing wasn't a sport that you would get a scholarship for, whereas now I do believe people do get scholarships for boxing and so on. And soccer was a sport that I was always really good at as well. I played representative soccer, but rugby union or rugby league and those sort of things, you're straight in.
But what did your parents just send you there as pay the fees?
They paid the fees, and Dad was a hardworking man, and that's right, and so. It was I was lucky to have parents that loved me and would support me and drive me all the way. And my brother and I both, we knew when we were in trouble. Like Dad's English wasn't always the best, and there's always broken English. And my luck, and he'd be swearing. He'd go, we pick up all these swear words, and we didn't really. And then we picked on later on in life what they really meant. But
it's hard when your mum doesn't speak Greek.
Yeah, well, Mum did speak Greek.
She did.
So Mum was very intelligent. So she was duxed with the school 5 years in a row. This is in Moree, but she was really smart. So she learnt language to cater for the family, to make Dad's family proud of her, and understand them basically. But yeah, Mum's very, very, very intelligent, and
Mum and Dad still around?
Yep, Mum and Dad's still around. Yep. But Mum actually doesn't live too far from Sydney. We're a little bit Ulladulla now.
Yeah, down the south.
Yeah, but Dad lives with me in Brisbane.
So you guys are up in Queensland and she's down here?
That's right. Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so you're at school and at this stage you're playing soccer, but when did you start thinking about boxing?
But like boxing, like I was 7 years old and I watched the Rocky movies. And that's just got me. So that was like my earliest memory wasn't that young as well, and I could say that would be like 6 years old. So to me, it's like I'd only been alive for about a year because my memory just doesn't go back that far. It's just how I am. That's me, right? But bit of a knucklehead, really, like that. But the boxing got me, and I felt really motivated and inspired. And I planted a seed. Then I said, I want to be world champion. This is back.
Who'd you say to?
Back, I said it to me.
Yeah.
That was I always said it. And I would tell everyone too, because like I basically would wear my heart on my sleeve and I'd say everything that I thought all the time, and got me into a lot of trouble doing that as well. Not like my brother, he was much more quieter than me. But, we had this great relationship, this great bond, my brother and I. But, he just thought it was great that I wanted to do boxing. And, eventually I found boxing. And that was when, in Toowoomba, a friend of mine said, we go down to the PCYC and I went down to the PCYC and did a bit of boxing. I went down there and I got punched up and I got 2 black eyes. And the next week I was able to get Dad to give me a lift back down there again. I was like 11 years old and I only got 1 black eye. So for me, that was a win. Yeah. Because I thought it was so cool that these kids would go down there and you get to really punch on, and it was really challenging. And for me to get 1 black eye instead of 2, that was a big win. For me, that was a big win. And it just progressed from there. And I was a kid that was too scared to even throw my right hand. Like I was really scared. Like I didn't know how to fight. And then whenever there's any altercations, you know, there, as you said, like being in Toowoomba and being half cast, so to speak, and then, you know, and then you do, you know, you get a bit of the redneck thing, and there's always these little controversial type of things. And, you know, when there's a fights or anything like that, you know, because it can be rough at times, you know, and, you know, I've always just, my go-to was always just to tackle them. I never knew how to box. So to learn how to box, you know, I was still really scared just to be able to throw my right hand and, you know, just throw my left hand. Then I got hit with a big one and, you know, big shot. And I just kicked and then and started coming out. So then I knew that I was a fighter then, and just the accolades that I got and just the appreciation. I fought in the Wilsonton Hotel in Toowoomba, and, you know, and just to get a win, you know, and I said to myself, for my next fight, I'm going to be throwing both hands. I'm going to really be giving this a real good go. And luckily that I did. Like I weighed in like 32.6 kilograms.
No.
Yeah.
How old?
11 years old.
Oh, okay.
32.6. Okay. Yeah. But I had fish and chips just before weighing. Didn't really know how it all sort of worked. So that put me in the 35 kg division. Now 3 kilos to a little kid, that's a lot of weight. Luckily that I did say to myself that I was going to fight really hard and throw both hands, because I did. And I went flat out. But the guy was good. The guy was good. And if I didn't do that, he would have really walloped me and I would have been really licking my wounds. But I lost that fight. And from that fight, I learned. So a lot of people, when they lose something, or they in business or whatever it is, like they lose something, then it's that's it, and throw it away. But what I decided to do was make sure I didn't eat before weighing. I weighed right. I did my diet right, and then I started running a bit more to get my legs better. So for my third fight, I bettered myself, and then I didn't stop punching, and I had my legs behind me, and I was the right weight, and everything was on cue. After I've had that fight, and I fought a guy that I still remember the name, like Sean McCullough from Quilpie, and I fought him at Millmerran. And this is an 11-year-old kid. So I've won the fight. He was really good, but I won it. And I did, and we both, it was an all-out war, and what they had back then was called the shower, and you know what a shower is, where they throw all the money in the ring. So for an 11-year-old kid to get praise such as that, to get money thrown in the ring at them.
Mad reward.
Yeah, like back then, like $10, $12 was a heap of money, especially for an 11-year-old kid. When you add up all them 5 cents and 20s and 50 cents or whatever, you know, that's a lot of money.
And how long did you stay amateur for? So, I mean, obviously you stay until you're a certain age, but like, did you just keep fighting amateur for PCYC for your club?
Yeah. So I fought for the PCYC for a while, and then I was about 12. So I was trained under a guy called Mclachlan. So he was a professional fighter as well. So he taught me a lot of the boxing fundamentals, and I was with him, and then I went on to train with Brendan Smith. But primarily, most of my work I did with Mclachlan, and my ultimate goal. Then obviously, like I already had that seed plan. I wanted to be a world champion, and I started learning about this thing called the Olympic Games. And then my goal was to become an Olympian and to go to the Olympic Games. So obviously, I was only young then too, just finished high school, and I actually had to qualify to go to the Olympic Games, and that was a really big one. It was the qualifiers. So to make it to the Olympic Games, you have to win the Oceanic Games. Yep. And then so you have to beat all the countries in the Oceanic region of the world, and I got sick the night before the fight, and I was just a kid still, you know, like 19 years of age, and I was so sick, and I was fighting a guy called Ramil Aberwat from New Zealand, and I called my mother. I said, Mum, I'm so sick, you know, I really want to go to the Olympics. And she said, look, son, all the answers that you're asking for is within yourself. She said, you've got it within yourself, love. You've wanted this your whole life. If you want this, you'll get it. You already know what to do, love. It's already there. You have to dig deep. And, you know, when you're at that age and you're asking your mum what to do, and, you know, when you're sick and, you know, you're pretty much crying, you just, you know, and she just said, you just got to dig deep. So I did just that. And then somehow I pulled it out and I knocked the guy out. I just, you know, I dug deep and I got the strength and I built up the resilience, and I knocked out this guy, and I qualified for the Olympic Games.
Because I want to stop you there for a second, because it's interesting you're talking about the Olympics, and we've seen this with Harry Garside more recently, but the style of amateur fighting, especially at the Olympic level, probably more so back then than today. They've changed up a bit, but it's sort of stepping in, stepping out a lot. Like, you know, it's a different style of fighting to standing in the and standing in front of someone and trading. I mean, there's not much trading, but you're sort of just doing the, flicking them out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But then you become a really aggressive fighter.
Yeah.
Later on in your pro career. Yeah. Were you aggressive as an amateur and as an Olympian?
Yeah. So I'm glad that you said this because look, Australians were very much behind and still are, so to speak. We still haven't won a gold medal at any Olympic Games. I don't know about the females. Did they win one? I don't know if the females.
I think we got a medal, but I don't think we didn't get a gold.
Yeah, but anyway, no man has ever won a gold medal at the Olympic Games for Australia at the boxing. So the best that we got was a silver, and his name was Snowy Baker. Back in the 60s it was at Melbourne, 1962 maybe. I'm not sure, but anyway, because I remember looking at the stats, and so for Harry to get that, where he's done so far, he's done great for the country. But we were just so underdeveloped, and when you look at the Cubans, the Russians, the Germans,
they fight differently.
Oh, it's a sport to them.
Yeah,
but to us, it's a fight.
Yeah,
and we had that mentality, and that's all I knew. I'm a slow learner, but when I've got something, I've got something. And for me, all out attack was my only way of winning. Just all out attack. So I actually looked into the other side of things, and I took some lessons on board. And I said to the Cuban coach, because they're the best, and they couldn't speak good English, but I said to him, what do we need to do as Australians to be better fighters, to be better boxers? And he didn't want to give us an insult, but he wanted to give us a compliment. So he goes, Aussie, he goes, tough, like this, but he goes, like that. Russia, Cuba, Germany, play, like this.
Strategy.
Yeah, play, and relaxed. And he goes, Aussie, he goes, Russia, Cuba, play. So it's just our mentality, and that's how we sort of were. We were sort of gritting and showing our emotion, and too much emotion.
Well, that's interesting because you don't notice when you talk to the Cubans, you don't see very many great professional Cuban fighters either. Rarely do they become great fighters. I mean, you see a couple in the heavyweights divisions, only one more recently. But they concentrate on winning the Olympics. I don't know what the deal is, but I think they get paid for it. Is it because of our training? We don't have the right coaches at our amateur level? Because they all end up they get dragged into amateurs, like Jeff, you, Danny. I mean, there's a whole heap of them. Look, all going to become world champions.
Yeah. Look, I was really privileged to be in an Olympic team with, the likes of Paulie Miller, like Danny Green, Danny Gill. We traveled all around the world together, and we went to the US Olympic Training Center in Colorado, where these guys have the state-of-the-art facilities, and the stuff that they were more focused on then was science, and mental awareness and things like this. When I was at the US Olympic Training Center, I learned that a bit about the preparation. So we had three groups, and one group did 25% mental training and 75% physical training. The other group did 50% mental training, 50% physical training. And the third group did 75% mental training and only 25% physical training. In the end, the results were the group that did the 75% mental training and only 25% physical training got far greater results as per the amount of mental training that they did. So the emphasis on psychology in sport these days, and being up to speed, and it makes more sense, even as a professional fighter in the pro ranks with the smaller gloves on, to be a relaxed fighter, a calmer fighter, because we are here to express our highest potential and master our emotions. And when you're fighting, emotions is just giving energy, excess energy, and you don't need to do that. But the best of the best, if you look at them from outside, it appears as though they're machines, like they're robotics and how they do things. And, Australia basically hasn't won a gold medal as yet because we're only a young country. But these other countries have been doing this stuff for centuries, and for such a long time. And they share information, they pass it on, and they do, what's important to them. But, Australia is, the day that we win a gold medal at the Olympic Games is the day that we're going to be treated a lot more. The fighters in Australia, boxing will be treated more so like the swimmers get treated. Look at the even Harry Garside, although he lost at the Olympics, the accolades, like the support that he gets and who he is as a person. Like in Australia, he's relatively known. Like when I went to the Olympic Games, we had there was 10 of us that made the team. And a lot of us become good fighters. Like Danny Gill did so good, and Paulie Miller did. He went on to other things. But Danny Green, we excelled, and we still the accolades. You don't get the credibility. So like you would if you're in the other sports and that. But had we won a gold medal, it's a whole different thing. Like you're put in front of the world as your country, as you're the country's Olympians. So they're
the most elite.
Yeah, the most elite. Yeah. You put up on this high pedestal, and then after it's over, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
And that has a psychological effect on athletes, and and then sometimes the lies, it's not always about it's not always adulation, and that's life's not always like rosy and peachy. It's not.
And there's no money in it either at the Olympic level.
There's not, and there's and it's always been a very hard task. That's why my hat goes off to people like Anthony Mundine and Danny Graham, fellow Olympic teammate. For these guys to pull out money out of the sport, they've done so good.
Well, something like Danny too. It's about what he did after boxing as well.
Yeah, that's right.
Like he's got that 12-round
fitness. Yeah,
it's got a new name. You told me he's got a new name.
U-box.
Yeah. U-box.
Yeah.
And Jock the same. I mean, Jock's got a whole lot of businesses, heaps of different businesses. Tony tells me anyway. I don't know. I haven't spoken to Jock about it, but Tony says.
I was just messaging before I come on today.
Jock,
yeah.
Because they're active. They're always active.
100%.
Yeah, Danny's always active.
Yeah.
I mean, and sort of moved away from. Oh, he's still got something to do with boxing, but he's sort of moved away from the art of boxing as opposed. He still has a boxing in his DNA.
Yeah.
But Anthony's moved away completely from it. So you come back from the Olympics. You got knocked out in the second.
I got beat by Kazakhstan. Lost on points. Yeah. I made it to the second round of competition.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's funny, like Fennec, Jeff won. He would have gone in for a medal bout, but they reversed the Boxing Federation, whoever it is, reversed the decision against him, and he left in disgust. I don't think Will Tomlinson ever did very well.
No.
Jacko didn't. Luke didn't do very well at the Olympics. But all these guys gone out and either won world titles, like you, or Luke was fought for the world title.
Yeah.
Jeff won world titles, lots of them.
Yeah.
Danny won a world title. I mean, and I wonder what happens post Olympics. So. What happened to you post-Olympics? So how did you become the professional fighter you became that you weren't as an amateur fighter?
Yeah. So like it did have a I think it did have a psychological effect. Like looking back, like it wasn't adulation. Like it's there was controversy. And I got charged for assault in 2002.
That's just after, because you were in the 2000 Olympics.
That's right. And I got convicted of that, and it's just because you sort of. I don't know, just keeping your mind busy. There's a bit of downtime and things, and I don't know, it has a psychological effect on you, I guess, and and then you look for gratification in other areas, I guess, and then your life can easily take a windy turn. Everything's not always as perfect as what it was, and you sort of lose sight of your goal.
Did someone when you come up from Olympics, did someone come try and pick you up and like put you into a professional program?
After the Olympics, no.
Yeah.
So
that's why you lost your way a bit.
Yeah. So the psychological support now is there's much more support resources out there available now to people needing any sort of assistance and help. Like that's one thing I can speak from experience. Not to say that it wasn't there then. They did offer something, but I think there's what do they call it? They when you finish the Olympic Games and then you have a debrief.
Yeah, debrief.
So they take
how do you feel about this?
Yeah, and all that stuff, and that wasn't so much pushed, but I think these days they push it on, push it upon the athletes and things like that. But Look, my real savior was like I really went into once I finished the Olympic Games. Look, it wasn't for me. I was a brawler. Like, not saying there's no intelligence involved in brawling, because you're still in there. You're taking punches. You're giving punches. It's still all boxing. You're brawling. But I found a lot more success in putting the fear of life into my opponent. So they had all the skills, and I fought Joel Casamayor, gold medalist for Cuba, all this sort of thing, and pretty well had the guy beat, but I put the fear of life in him, and I just kept on going and going and going, just being that brawler and just the all out attack. And that brought me a lot of success throughout my professional career. Like so after going to the Olympic Games, I won the state title in my first fight, won the Australian title with my second fight, won 12 3-minute rounds, and just went on to have great success. I built up my record to 23 fights with 23 wins with 21 knockouts, and
at lightweight division.
In the lightweight division, yes.
Which, for those people listening, that's the equivalent division that Kambosos is in at the moment. I think Nader's boy Hass is in the lightweight division. I think he's the current Australian champion.
Okay.
So we're talking. It's a pretty heavily contested division, by the way.
Yeah.
Especially at the moment. Yeah. Like, I mean, back then too as well. Like, you get some of the great fighters.
Oh, lightweight?
Yeah.
Oh, at the moment, it's great. Like, look at Tank and Lomachenko. These guys, unbelievable.
Yeah. It's a very
George
heavily
Kambosos, like these guys, it's something special.
It's heavily contested, heavily contested. So you're in the lightweight division. So I do want to go back to when you got arrested for, and charged and convicted for assault.
Yeah.
What happens to a boxer? They lose their way a little bit. Well, not lose their way, but like young bloke, come from being put up on a pedestal at the Olympic Games in Sydney, all heightened awareness and all that sort of stuff. Doesn't do as well as he wanted to do, obviously. Sort of back to earth, not picked up by as a professional, probably a little bit rudderless at that stage, still a young guy. But you've gone through this, you're living this life where you're sparring and jumping in the ring with blokes. Like, you're willing. You know how it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Did you get on the drink or something like that? Like, what was the situation?
No, it wasn't.
Would you get baited because you're an ex-fighter?
No,
it wasn't. Fighter?
It was self-defense. Basically, but how much self-defense you are entitled to, like the judge.
Especially as a boxer, it's got to be reasonable.
That's right. So the judge said that I was entitled to self-defense. However, I broke the guy's jaw in 2 places, but he said you could have timed your punches precisely to break the man's jaw in 2 places. So that's excessive use of self-defense. So the fact that I pleaded not guilty and then got guilty as a result of it, I got the maximum penalty for it. So, and I had to serve time. That's a lot. Not a lot of, well, no people, very few people, next to none, would be able to say they've been to the Olympic Games and they've been to jail as well. So, I had some things I had to overcome, and that was a real challenging time in my life. And
I think I might just explain that, Michael, because I think it needs to be explained. So. Maybe do it as a good example. I'll give an example. So, if someone breaks into my house and he has a wooden tennis racket, for argument's sake, and that's his weapon, okay? If I have a gun, I'm entitled to defend myself, but not unreasonably. So I can't. So having a gun is too powerful for a tennis racket. So that'd be deemed to be an unreasonable use of excessive force.
Do you have a guns license? Are you a trained gunsman?
Assuming I've got a license.
Yeah, okay.
So and let's say in defending myself, I wounded him. The judge would say that's not self-defense, Mark. That's excessive and unreasonable use of force, which negates your defense, self-defense, defense in the court case. Therefore, I'll probably get convicted. For a boxer, particularly someone who's been Olympic Games. If you're doing one-on-one with somebody, let's say you weren't a boxer and he was confronting you, threatening you, he's going to knock you out, whatever. You can defend yourself if you're not a boxer. If you hit him on the chin, it happens to break his jaw, so be it. But the rules are, if you're a fighter,
that's right,
you've got a weapon in your hands in that you're a trained expert at it, and therefore that would be considered to be unreasonable force. and excessive.
Yeah, so to speak. Yeah, yes, I get it. I get it.
That's the rule.
Yeah, there is, but there's also different variables that have to be taken into consideration when assessing a judge. And a judge,
100%.
And the judge has a duty, as a judge to do the way these things. There's other sorts of things that back then, like I can own up that I wasn't forthright completely. Like at first I tried lying about the incident and things like that. So, was I an honest young man? No, I wasn't. Was I prepared to own up for it? No, I wasn't straight away. Like had I been able to have accountability back then, which are things I've learned later in life and the hard way. Well, but having accountability could have done me so much more, and just having gratitude that I'd been to the Olympic Games, and just and just being thankful that I was able to have had that and then move forward. Looking back in hindsight, it's such a wonderful thing. But
mate, you ought to expect of yourself when you're young bloke.
Yeah, but I don't feel any sort of resentment. I don't feel filthy about what's happened or what's happened. I'm 100% accountable because I know more than anyone because I was there. I know what happened, was a judge harsh to me? I don't know. Like maybe not, but like I have to own it because.
And you did the time?
Yeah, I did the time.
How long did you spend?
8 months.
8 months in jail. Where?
Yeah, at Woodford.
Where's that?
Yeah, it's in Queensland somewhere up there. Yeah.
And how'd you do time? How'd you deal with it?
It was all right. So inside confronting, I had some fights inside because I was young. I was young, and and then to be put in there with like hardened criminals, like I got challenged, and being a little guy as well.
Of course, you're gonna get challenged.
Yeah, this little guy out there, he's a fighter. At the time I was Australian champion as well, and I remember having pretty vicious fights in there because I was willing back then. You don't think and you're just willing to go on with it. But looking back, I could have killed someone. Yeah, it was pretty bad. There's even like to this very day, people with their witnesses still speak about the fights that they saw me have in jail. And like one guy's ear was hanging off by a thread. Like this is what you have to do to defend yourself.
Yeah, because there's no referee.
No referee. Yeah. No, you got a guy's 110 kilos. I'm probably 65 kilos, wringing wet. And
you had that sort of guy's challenge?
Yeah. And I'm up against the wall, and I can't even. He's just trying to stand over me and own my gloves, and what can I do about it? Like, so you have to back yourself and just straight away. So I've had to knock this guy out 5 times whilst I'm in jail, and then he still kept coming, and I'm just stuck now. I'm up against the wall. He's smashing me now. He's come back after being dropped that many times, and I've got my arm free. Hook, just kept on hooking until his ear was hanging off by a thread. And then there's nothing but a pool of blood everywhere. And to this very day, as I said, guys still talk about what they saw that time. But that's something that I had to deal with.
No gloves, no mouth guard, no headgear.
None of that. No, I had wraps on my hands. Actually, I was about to do some bag work. So yeah,
that helps.
Yeah.
You're smiling. I guess you sort of can think back now. You're an older man.
I'm glad I'm not there.
Yeah. Oh my God. And what happened after that?
Yeah.
So who picked you up? What happened after that? So when you came out, you wanted to keep the boxing going because you're still the Australian champion. Did the boxing? I mean,
no. But
don't you get not cancelled, whatever you call it? Don't they look at your license? Do they look at your license?
That goes on. So anyway, I was the whole time I was there, I was manifesting. I wanted to win a world title. I still had that dream to win a world title, and I still had, and I had to work towards that. And then I teamed up with Brendan Smith at that stage. He saw a lot of potential in me, and I just kept on striving and pushing through. And as I said, I built my record up, but I was hanging out with some people that weren't good for my life. They weren't serving me, and hanging around the bad crowds basically. And I had a good hard think to myself, like, if I want to win a world title, what do I need to do? There's all these different roads I could have taken, so I just had to back myself. So I just booked a one-way ticket. I went to the States. It was a return, but I didn't come back for 6 years.
You could get in?
I could get in.
Visa?
So there was some planning and preparation that went into that beforehand. So because I got offered fights to go to the States. At first I was fighting at the Playboy Mansion in Bel Air. Yeah, Hugh Hefner's Playboy Mansion. That's where I was fighting. That was my first fight. It was on ESPN against Ronaldo Reyes. That was the name of the guy I was fighting. I've gone down to the US Embassy here in Sydney, and I've spoken to them, and they said, look, because of your criminal conviction, you're not going to go to America, and even after 5 years, they're not going to let me go. They said no. So
wow.
that was like a real downer time in my life. I just got rejected. So, fortunately enough, my lawyer at the time, Damien Alro, he was pretty close with Premier Beatty. Of course, you remember Premier Beatty.
Peter Beatty, yep.
He
great lover of sport.
Yeah.
In Queensland.
He wrote a letter to the US Embassy pretty much condoning that, you know, like saying how great of a guy I was, how hard done by I was in the case, and to give me consideration to you know. So I got an P1 working visa.
Wow.
In America.
That's cool.
So we're already set to go in the fights, but I was still fighting in the local network in Australia and still doing things. But so that was already set. So when an opportunity come up, I could have flown over, done all my training here. But by living in Australia, I was still, it wasn't serving me. I just knew that I had to do something to make it work, because I'd seen, so I've looked at those around me, others going on my pathway and what they're going to, and there was just nothing there. So I just had to back myself. I had a house, had my family and everything, like, with very little money, because there's no money in Australian boxing. I don't care what anyone says. Australia as a whole, that's why I'm saying about Mundine, how he's done, and he did do it with the boxing, and Green did it earlier with the boxing. Yeah, they made some decent amount of money, and yes, they did make it later on in business, correct. But they're smart guys. Smart guys. It's really hard to get ahead, and you know, I just had to back myself. So I got whatever I could. I booked a $2,000. I flew to Sydney, paid $2,000 cash for a ticket, and flew straight to America.
On your own?
On my own. And I rang Brandon. I said, I'm in America. And I just had to get away. This is what I got to do. And he backed me. He said, yeah, okay, Mick, I'll be right over. I'm coming, because you know,
he came over.
He believed in me, and if he didn't, things may not have panned out the way that they did. And so, you know, he backed me, and you know, I've flown over to America, and by the time so I stayed at the Marina Del Rey first day, some hotel near the airport, and then a few days later, Brendan come over. We stayed at the Roosevelt Hotel, and then I've gone from the Roosevelt Hotel. We walked out. There's a premiere for Rocky V on that same night. We walked out. Sylvester Stallone shaking the hands, and we shook his hand.
Oh wow!
Sylvester Stallone. This is like the first day Brendan arrived, and you know,
it was a sign.
It was a sign, mate. These things are happening more so than ever now in my life, like signs and moments and things. And don't even get me started on that. But there's, like, you know, solar flares released from the sun. There's a different energy.
Well, can I ask you, just on that sign thing? You know, let me ask you. Do you find those things, the universe, right?
Yeah.
What do we call it? Do you think that they would be able to account for your resilience? And the fact that you said, stuff it, I'm going to go to Sydney.
Yeah.
I'm going to the US.
Yeah.
If you hadn't have had that mindset, you wouldn't have walked in. You wouldn't have been able to meet Sylvester Stallone, which is the thing that gave you a whole lot of energy to pursue.
That's right. Planted the seed a long time ago.
Do you think those things, that, given that you're open to perceiving these things as, let's call them signs or gifts from the universe, or someone tapping you on the shoulder telling you what to do?
Yep.
Do you think they're the things that give you your resilience? Because you're a resilient bastard. Like, you've had lots of ups and downs, but you still manage to keep going. Or is it just youth?
Yeah, no, you can relate this to business success, and you know about that. And so it's just about tapping on doors, and go this way, and you tap on the right doors, you know, and it's just consistency and keeping at it and just go on different pathways. And, you know, you have a plan. You know, I basically had a plan that I need to go to the States. And my dream was to win a world title, but I planned, like, I couldn't just get on and book a one-way ticket to the States. There was a bit of planning involved in that as well. But if you want something more than you want to breathe, then you're going to achieve it. So I left everything in Australia. I committed myself, and I just got stuck into it. Now, I believe it's you can manifest things. That's a big part of it. I believe that, what you believe and how much you want something, that will determine the outcome. And it's not just gonna happen by magical thing, but it's the want and the will, and there are energies, there are things that make this happen, whether you call it your higher power or, there's so many things that can, determine the outcome of certain things. And, and in business as well, like you just do the right things and you keep tapping on the doors and you set things up the right way. If you keep at it, you're going to get there.
And how much of that is consistency though? Like, not only have you got to, follow that path, you got to look for the path. You got to be open to it. Yep. No, I've got to get away from this mob who are sort of maybe not help me out here. Not doing it. It's just not good for me. Yeah. Don't have to make a judgment, but it's just not good for me. Yeah. You don't have to make a judgment about them. Then I'm gonna make the call. I'm gonna buy the ticket. I'm gonna go to America. I'm gonna do all the other stuff in between. I'm gonna get the visa and somehow get to Peter Beating and make sure I get that process going. But then it becomes down to effort. Yeah. There's a lot of effort involved, a lot of drive in this shit. Like you gotta keep driving yourself, get yourself up in the morning, and because it doesn't happen overnight. Where do you get that from? What is that? Is that watching your dad go and work in the concrete his whole life?
Yeah, so a lot of it's trial and error. You do a lot of trial and error, and then it's easy when you're looking back to say, "Oh, I wish I did it this way. I wish I did it that way," but you didn't. But by trial and error, and I still had that youth in me. I still had that drive to want to do it. So it was a lot of trial and error, and then I had to cut out a lot of vices. Like there's going to be a lot of noise in your head with other things going on in your life. Like what's happening back at home? What's going on? Like, who cares? Yeah. This is what I really want. And it's sometimes in business or successful boxing, people in that business are successful. They seem like they're really rude or ruthless people and that, but or narcissists, so to speak. But like they just have a goal. They have a goal and they're going to be successful. They cut out all the things that are going to be holding them back.
Like noise. It's just noise.
100%. And that's what I had to do. So so training, like your fitness is a prerequisite. You have to be fit. And like that's why I'm developing, like I'm on the online coaching business now. That's what I'm doing and developing, this bulletproof mindset. I'm developing the maintenance program. So everything that I was doing back then that got me to the levels that I achieved, I put into a training program. So, but I had to do these things every day, all the time. So, whilst looking for a place to live in America, and then working out, how I was going to make it happen and this and that. So I had like a bit of a team. I started building a support network around me, and Brendan was a really big part of that. And booking in this fight, making sure his main charge was going to be ready and going to be right. So I just knew, like say like when you if you want to be the best, you got to hang out with the best. You got to associate with the best. So what did I do? I went to the Wildcard Gym, Hollywood, training alongside Manny Pacquiao. All the rest, I just walked in there. I'm from Australia. I've got a record, so an undefeated record. And I said, no worries. So I just started rubbing shoulders with those guys, doing the hard work there. It was all new. It was scary. It was intimidating. But
how old were you?
I was 26. Yeah. I was 26.
A kid from Toowoomba.
Yeah. It was
because that's the difference between Toowoomba and there.
Oh, mate, like I've come from there. I'm living in the big smoke.
Yeah,
just trying to make my own. And I started actually, like I said earlier, if you want to make something more than you want to breathe, then you're going to achieve it. So I started making friends. I started talking to people that, that were like-minded, and they start believing you as well. And when you're as close as what Brendan and I were, well, he jumped on a flight and come straight over. He backed me. He saw that drive, like. He supported me, but I gave him that drive. Like he could see that hunger in what I had. So, he's not long after he's seen me going in the wild card all the time, training all the time, doing all my maintenance program, doing all this stuff. And it wasn't long. And then he was very close to securing a world title fight at Wembley Arena in London against Graham Earl. So we had a decision to make then. So we flew to Brooklyn, Gleason's gym in New York. And we trained that, like, it was -6 degrees back then. It was so cold, but they had the most world champions. Like you had like Tyson train out there. You had a Turo Grady train out there. There was a trainer there called Hector. He passed away, but that they were all there. The big names, all the people. And you walk into this gym, you got some big dudes in there, and you got all these like tough guys. They're like la 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 la, going all the time sparring. Like so intimidating. So I ended up securing a fight with the record that I had. We secured a fight at Wembley, and I went into a training camp, and I'm in this gym.
Was it eliminator or title fight?
This is actually for the world title.
Wow.
So Brendan, I'd already built up my record in Australia. I built it up, but I just need to get the world title fight secured. And Brendan, he saw that I was hungry. He did it. He got it. You know, he said, look, he's ringing up these promoters. Frank Warren in England. He said, Michael's already. He's gone to the States. He's already in the training. Look, we're ready to go. You know, we want the fight basically. And so we got the fight. And so I did. I put myself through it, and I knew if I was going to beat this guy, I had to be fighting and training amongst the best. It was hard. It was real hard. Like I was training in -6 degrees. I was walking on all these long stairs, all these subways. You know, have you been to Brooklyn?
Yeah. I've been to Glaciers.
Jewish community. Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? Yeah. What was his name? Mike. Mike was the owner of the, and you're walking along there, and you walk in there, and all this was going on, and
it's like out of the movies.
Yeah. There's just one Polish guy in there, and he was like pretty much a mirror. This is like everything's meant to happen. You know how when things just align? It just aligned. I saw this guy, and he was just like a bigger image of exactly like the guy that I was going to be fighting. And I knew if I spar this guy and I can get over this guy, that's what I need to. That's my key. That's what I need to do. Anyway, he was just beating everyone up all the time. It was like I still, you know, as I'm going along, I'm building up confidence. And Brendan goes up to his trainer and says, "Hey, mate, how you going?" Well, you know, Aussie accent. And he goes, "We want to see if we can get you some rounds in with your Polish boy." He goes, "You want to spar my boy?" He goes, "We'll see how you." And then Brendan says, "How many rounds?" And he says, Brendan said, 6 or 8 rounds. He goes, "Okay, we'll see how you go after 2." Like this. So we got in there, and I just walloped this guy. I walloped him first round. The guy couldn't even continue. I had the confidence through the roof, and I knew that I'd done it because I'd done it every day. I'd walk to get there. I'd done all my training. I sacrificed everything to show. I knew how hungry I was. I was prepared. I was ready. So when we locked in the fight, signed the contract, flew over to the Wembley, and I was fighting against Graham Earl. I wanted it so badly, and I remember like it was like this is the nights leading up to the fight, and you got all this media, all this commotion going. For them, over there was a really big thing. You had Amir Khan fighting on the same card. You had Michael Sprott fighting Audley Harrison. Back then, big name. It was a big show. I think it would have been 15,000 people. Back then, that's decent.
It's a big audience.
ITV was a TV company. And you know, you have to get your sleep. You're still getting over a bit of jet lag, whatever. And the fire alarms are going off
in the hotel.
Wow, yeah. Fire alarms are going off, and you know, the nights before that, you got hookers knocking on the door. Like, is this the room? And stuff like. What's your chances? You know, like nights in a row, the same thing happening, and all these noises and things. And it's the night before the world title fight, and these fire alarms just kept going and going and going. I remember saying to myself, I'd rather die in my sleep than not get a good sleep and lose this fight. That was my mentality. I didn't care. I just went back to sleep. I remember it so clearly. But, you know, in the back of my mind, I thought I would have got a curtain, probably slide down the side of the building. It was like if I started smelling smoke or something, but like I just went to sleep. And I had an air of confidence. And, you know, when it come out to have that fight, well, you've had a fight, so to speak, haven't you? Yeah. And the nerves that you feel when you're going out there,
The adrenaline's crazy.
Imagine if you didn't train properly. Imagine if you cut corners.
Or if I didn't sleep properly.
Yeah.
Or if I didn't sleep properly.
You didn't?
No, if I didn't sleep properly, I can imagine the feeling.
Yeah.
Because you're losing confidence. It just takes that much.
That's right. And that's the mental thing too. Yeah. And if it was a bigger event, when you got you know tens of thousands in attendance and millions of viewers all over the world, and everything you ever dreamed of is just sitting there, right there, about to happen
on the line.
Yeah. How the feeling, the hollow feeling inside when you knew you weren't doing something right. But I did it all right.
Especially for a perfectionist, though.
Yeah.
If you're a perfectionist, that can fuck you up.
Yeah.
That thought process.
Yeah.
And you got to, it's a bit like not being able to go to sleep. How did you control yourself then? So like, let's in the room, that's okay. That's not too bad. Do your walk out, get up, but you're in the corner. Now you're on your own.
Yeah.
No one's rubbing your hands. You're standing there ready for the ref to call you in. So how do you control your nervous energy?
Well, it doesn't just happen on a spot. It just took time of practice, and so like
you do that?
Mental preparation, meditation, talking, self-talk, and I was doing a lot of time visualizing, like the same things I learned at the US Olympic Training Center. All my lessons along the road. The sparring that I did, I kept remembering the sparring that I did with the Polish guy at the Gleason's gym. I had it all in check and already knew it. And if he does this, if this happens, boxing can be so unpredictable. You can't ever say, if he does this, I'm going to do exactly that. It's just a numbers game. It's like business also. Like, it's a bit of a numbers game. You work, okay, this didn't work so many times. This is going to be a far better result if I go this way instead of doing this and have to eliminate this and get the answer this quick. But it's already calculated. You already got it in your mind because you've done it over and over and over and over and over again so many times, and you've built it up. You haven't just like wanted. It's not just a want and wish thing. You've put the work in and the drive and the dedication.
So, really what you're talking about here, Michael, is preparation.
Yes.
So, they're pretty fundamental things.
Yes.
Like preparation.
Yes.
It's all those things.
Yep.
That's how you control yourself. You don't walk in there not ready to control yourself because you're already in control. You've controlled yourself through your prep. Because then everything's about preparation. I don't give a shit what is business or sport or they're all businesses.
It is.
Your business is boxing.
Yes, that's right.
Like his business is producing a show.
Yep.
It's about his preparation, like your preparation.
That's right. Yep.
You know how to deal with it, and you went on to win that fight.
Well, I did, but the when I've walked out for that fight, that's the feeling that I'm getting to is like you've got all these people that, we're gonna fucking kill you, like boo, like this, because they're all for their guy.
Yeah, totally.
And
now you got the crowd.
Yeah. But I was like, I can't wait to fist bump this guy. Hey, like I was like, it's not going to show up. I don't care. 'Cause it's just common sense. I'm going to be fighting that only one guy. It doesn't bother me. It's all just who cares, noise. I'm used to all that. So I've got my helmet on, my Greek helmet, my warrior helmet, and I'm walking out really, really slowly, really confident. I'd stop for a bit and I'd stare at them all a bit, and I'd walk a little bit more, 3 or 4 more steps, and I'd stare at them all again a bit more because I knew I had this. And I got in there, I just couldn't wait. And I've got in there, and it's got the fight of the year, it got the round of the decade. It's the 4th round. I've dropped the guy twice. I even put a cheeky 5 grand on myself to knock him out in the first round at 42-1. I didn't get it, but anyway, it was one of them fights, and then it got to the 3rd round of the fight, and I've dropped him once, and I've gone in to finish the guy, and you know what it's like with boxing. If you one little mistake, you go throw your right hand and your left hand sitting down too low, bang, I copped it, and the guy's dropped me, right? So it's just turned the whole crowd. It was so frantic. There's no standing 8 counts with the WBO commission, and the referee applied a standing. That's just to give you an idea. The referee, Mickey Ward, he was Mickey Van, sorry.
Oh, not Mickey Ward.
Yeah. Mickey Van was the referee. Yeah, but he was like a very veteran referee. He was like just that frantic that he applied a standing 8 count. You don't do that, but anyway, still gave their guy a bit more time to recover. Long end of the short, I've recovered and through the most amount of punches thrown in round 4 of that fight, and it was just like an all-out bloody war, and I won the world title. The titles went through the roof. It was the happiest day of my life. It's just, it was second to none.
We won't have time to talk about all your defenses and all, because you have a stack of fights, but there is one thing I do want to talk about, and so I think it's important to me. You established right at the very beginning the close bond between you and your mum and your dad, but also your brother Stathy. Yep. And unfortunately, before one of your bigger fights, your brother, you lost your brother. Yep. Can you take me through that?
So I built my record up. I got these big fights. So then I've gone from this kid in Toowoomba, too scared to even throw a punch, to fighting against the pound for pound best fighter in the world, Juan Manuel Marquez. He knocked out Manny Pacquiao. Yep. Like, those who know boxing will know who Juan Manuel Marquez is. He was one of the pound for pound best fighters in the world. Like, he fought Mayweather. He's done everything. He fought everyone. And it was such a big fight. It was a mega star fight. And I was preparing for the fight. So I used to go into 12-week or 8-week training camps in Thailand. My name was so big in the States that I couldn't go anywhere or be anywhere. I was so big that the paparazzi and like people were infiltrating our training and trying to get in Brendan's ear all the time. He joined me all the way, and I was in camp in Thailand, and I've got a phone call. It was Brendan, and he said, "Mick, get on your motorbike, meet me at the gym." This is 3 weeks out, so I'm fighting the pound for pound champion of the world. in 3 weeks' time in training camp in Thailand. I'm fighting him in the bright lights at the MGM Grand at Las Vegas. And I thought, okay. And I turned my phone off. I looked at my phone. It was going off. It had like hundreds of messages and missed calls and whatever. And I've got in there and I saw Brennan, and as soon as I saw his face, I said, something's happened, hasn't it? And he said, yeah, Mick, it's your brother. He's gone. He died. Then, to have that happen, I just spoke to my brother the night before for like an hour and a half. It was probably one of the best conversations we had in our entire life, speaking about after this fight, we're going to get our kids, we're going to meet together, we're going to go on holidays. And, he died from a drug overdose. And
accidental?
Yeah, it was an accident, how it happened. There was a bit of negligence involved and things like that, but I decided not to focus on that. I decided to move forward in my life. We had a decision then to either take the fight and go ahead and fight Juan Manuel Marquez or recover. And for me, in my head, I did what I thought my brother would have wanted. In hindsight, he's not with us now. He wasn't with me then. But I was of this illusion that he was right on my shoulder telling me to go ahead and have the fight. And I convinced myself that I was a very mental, strong person like
that. It's an emotional thing.
Yeah.
Which is the wrong reason to fight.
Yeah, emotional is giving and giving energy.
Yeah.
It took a lot out of me. And the key thing with that fight, like the media, I couldn't talk to the media. So they'd always mention my brother's name. So they put a media ban mentioning my brother's name because I just couldn't stop crying. I didn't have anything to mask it. I had a drug test. You can't drink alcohol. Like that's what people do. They drink alcohol. They take drugs when they want to mask the pain. And I couldn't stop it. I couldn't stop the crying. And then we got, hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I've dropped Marquez. I dropped him. He was down. He was gone. And all I had to do was jump in and do what I did with every other fight and finish the guy. I didn't do that. I was listening to the noise, and I could hear the commentator saying, and he's thinking of his brother. And for the first time in my life, I've hesitated when going to finish an opponent. That 2 or 3 seconds would have given him time for him to balance his equilibrium. Thank you. And I didn't do it. And then next he's come back and he stopped me round 9. I caught a throat punch in round 9, and just my legs weren't there like they should have been. I wasn't sleeping in the preparation. As we know, sleep's so important. Because I was trying to go over how he died every night in my head and just thinking about all the things growing up, riding these Brumbies and through the graveyard, and how he was riding in the favourite in a week's time. He was riding the favourite in the Melbourne Cup. He was on Shootout. And a week after he's died, he was to be riding Shootout.
Wow.
In the Melbourne Cup, who was the favourite, who would have won. His time rode far less because Starthy wasn't on it. His connection with every horse was something else. He's like the horse whisperer. And,
in hindsight, then Michael, if you look back on it and because we talked about preparations for everything.
That's right.
The preparation, the week leading up to the big event. In hindsight, if you were talking to another fighter, or just a business person, about to do a big meeting, or a swimmer, what would your advice be?
Don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't go ahead because, you don't, because it's not, if you can't put your best foot forward, don't put any foot forward at all. You need to come out with a strategy, like something that you can say, or you can just be honest. In my case, being honest would have been the best answer. Your brother just died. Your only brother just died.
And there's nothing wrong with not fighting.
That's right. And,
But what is it with fighters, though, mate? Can you just tell me that?
Oh, yeah, we got that will. We got that determination. We've got it.
I'll be right.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck it. I'm ready.
Yeah.
But really, like a proper judicious thought process about what it takes to be ready rarely gets done until you mature and become a lot older and you've experienced a loss like that.
Yeah, that's right. And then the things that I needed to maintain being that fighter stopped. Like I wasn't sleeping properly for that fight.
Yeah.
I was listening to what the commentators were saying as opposed to doing what I had to do. Then that went on. Excuse me. didn't apply any of the mental stuff. You can just imagine my life was a mess.
Yeah.
I didn't apply any of the principles that I had. I didn't have that bulletproof mindset. I wasn't using that. And my style of all out attack, that's all I had. You know, when you're in business, Mark, you know, you guys have a whole team of executives working out a strategy, correct?
Boxing, you're on your own.
Yeah, I was on my own with the all-out attack, and then that was only going to last for so long. This all-out attack style, I didn't step back and have someone say, "Hey, look, you need to start doing this." You know, I went my own way. I went wild. I'd go to invest into something else, and I'd buy this house and that property, and I'd do this, and I changed my mind 1,000 times. And you know, I got on a plane to get to England to fight against Ricky Burns, and I was too drunk to even get on the plane. You know, I couldn't go a day without.
You went in a spiral.
Yeah, I couldn't go a day without drinking or taking drugs. It just become my spiral, and by taking that fight, I've procrastinated and prolonged the pain of losing my brother, and then this addiction and this mental, you know, this drinking would go on for so many years, and then eventually, you know, I'd go into recovery, and then I'd come out of recovery, and I'd have all these great ideas, have great connections, great people. You know, I don't know why I haven't been talking to you sooner, but I'd tell you why. It's because my head was in a cloud of fog. I didn't know what Arthur from Arthur. I couldn't have told you what day it was, you know. And here I sit in front of you today, thankful because I got locked up for 2 years. I got out 7 months ago, and when the first day sitting in there, unlike the first time I went to jail, I said to myself, how fucking great is this? You know, for me, I had gratitude because I knew that this is it for me. I knew that I had to come out the other end. I was in there, I saw a lot of things I related to a lot of the other prisoners that were in jail. They suffered sexual abuse. They suffered from addiction. They suffered from all sorts of trauma, domestic violence, poverty. You know, and I could relate to a lot of these things that these guys were suffering from. You know, I had my own little Narcotics Anonymous group in there, and you got like 20 prisoners sitting at a table. The prison wardens would come over and go, "What's going on here, guys? We don't like groups of prisoners sitting together at one time." "Oh, sorry, so we're just talking about our feelings." You know, and we'd all be sitting there. We'd be having our morning share about, you know, our daily inventory about, you know, how we're feeling, what's going on inside the head, and dealing with the emotions and dealing with what was going on, and you know, men becoming vulnerable and talking about things. So it started, you know, that was my plan, like just starting from there and helping these guys, and that helped me by helping others. And the best way to keep something was by giving it away. That's what I learned, and it just went on.
Being generous.
Yeah.
So now where are you at with it all?
So moving forward. So, you know, because like it's, you know, I've had 2 years and 8 months. You know, I haven't touched a drink. I haven't touched a drug. I have.
Do you feel? Yeah, but do you feel as though you want to, or you're not even interested?
No, not even interested. And because like I have this will to succeed, all I've got to do is apply the same principles that I did with my boxing. And when I first went to the States, and when you want something more than you want to breathe, like I am now, it doesn't even become an option. Why would you? I've just been there. I've been in jail for 2 years. You don't want it. It's a no-brainer for me.
And jail was probably easy. I don't mean easy, but easy relative to the shit life you were leading prior to that. The drinks, the drugs, you know, like bouncing in and out of joints, not really fighting properly, you know, never being properly prepared, never being happy with yourself. Maybe jail gave you an opportunity to deal with all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's really, really sad, but unfortunately that I needed it, because I was you know, with the law, you know, like I'd go into recovery for just long enough. I was doing all the programs but I hadn't dealt with my trauma. And you can't be drunk and dealing with your trauma.
Yeah.
You can't be high and dealing with your trauma. And I don't care who you are. Like some people are business people. They think they can get away with having a line of Coke or think that, oh, I'm going to be better today. You know, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not. You know, there's different ways of dealing with things, and they can be a far better self without needing these other habits and vices and things. And these are the same principles. And I know this because I've been there and I've done it, and I've been able to say I've won the world title. I've been in jail, and it's a simple choice.
So the world title that you're winning, you're going now is against yourself. Yeah. I want to be the world title.
100%.
I want to be Michael Katsidis. The world title against Michael Katsidis. The guy's not going to get the world title.
Yeah.
And so where to from here, mate? What's going to happen?
So
what do you see what's your calling now? What's the universe telling you?
So I'm developing a program called the Bulletproof Mindset. And so basically people can have the best version of themselves. So I've got my Instagram page and
what is it?
Michael_Katsidis.
Yep.
And there's all the information on the Bulletproof Mindset. So, for example, like you could spend hours talking to, I'm really excited about this because we've got, as part of our team, we have an industrial psychologist, Samantha Vox, and we have a whole team of people, but we're developing this. So it's like, they could talk to you, for hours and hours. You can speak to psychologists for hours on end and learn about your life and where it's taking you and how it's going the way that it's going. They could say, look, Mark, if you keep doing this, you keep eating like this and sleeping like this, your life's going to be like this, it's going to be like that, right? But they have this scan that they do with Dr. Daniels, is part of the team, and the scan done on your brain, they can say, this is without even talking to you, this is where your life's going, this is what you've done, basic rundown, and if you continue like this is what's going to happen with your life. So this is one of the part of the things that we're developing with the Bulletproof Mindset, getting this scan done on your
as a
brain,
starting point.
And then we've got a team of coaches that will develop and help people decipher it and give them the best road for them to take in the future. So that's still developing at the moment, and all the information is available on my Instagram. But the World Championship Maintenance Program, the same stuff that I did and maintained doing when I was in the States and throughout my career, how helped me reach my peak and the maximum results that I got, I'd formed this program. This is training alongside Manny Pacquiao and all the big names. Like I learned, I watched, I observed, and everything that I did over the years, I picked up this set sequence of moves that I do, and I've got them all for free that I give them to people so they can get maximum. I call it the World Championship Program, and people
can I ask you a question? And because your ability to reinvent yourself, but you're reinventing yourself, but you're also pulling on those things that have always worked for you in terms of a mindset, your mindset and structure and discipline and rules, things that work, okay? That's brilliant.
Yep.
Do you think if you had if you took yourself out of the 90s and 2000s and put yourself into today, would you have ever been a UFC guy? Would you? Do you think you would have ever fought in the UFC? Would you?
It would have suited me. It would have suited me.
Totally.
Definitely.
Do you watch UFC?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I can't remember the names of the people, like the big ones I'll see, but like just the thing that I've always seen, like with the kicking sports and grappling and all that sort of stuff, there's so many different elements in these sports, and it can be much like a street fight. But once you get to know the sport a bit more, there is a science to it.
Yeah.
And you can appreciate that now. So, but that's why I've always liked boxing. It's like mano, man against man, and there's a science to it, and you can work out. And it's a real strategy. Yeah, but that's also now been worked into the UFC, and it's exciting, right? Do you do boxing or UFC more?
I in terms of practice or watching, I practice. I don't box anymore because I'm too old to get hit in the head. But I do Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah, cool.
I'm enjoying that.
Yeah,
I've been doing with a guy called Larry Papadopoulos up here in the cross.
Yeah.
But I love watching Volkanovski, Alex Volkanovski, for example.
Yeah,
I love watching Volk.
Yeah, I've seen.
And they're decent boxers, decent wrestlers. They're decent at everything. I mean, they're tough bastards. I mean, there's the referee's not pulling anyone off really. I mean, until you're dead, until you're completely
done tapping out.
You're done.
Yeah.
It's sort of it's a little bit more brutal than boxing. Boxing is more art.
Yeah.
A lot more art involved. I mean, unless you were just going and just crushing no matter what.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. And Jeff was like that.
Yeah.
Jeff was always in your face.
Yeah.
Never. He wasn't stepping back.
Yeah, that's right.
And that's about fitness too.
It is a lot of it's about fitness, and that's a prerequisite though. Then you got to have the hunger. Then when you want something so much, then you can force your will upon your opponent, and you can beat them that way, and you can actually put the fear of life into them and do it that way. But the all-out attack will only last for so long. There comes to a point in your life as you're getting older, you need to come up with another strategy. If you're dealing with so many other back noise and other things going on in your life, whether business or boxing or fighting or UFC, like you're not going to be able to come up with a strategy if you can't step back and breathe and have a look at what's going on. You need to be able to assess, and you need to listen to your team. You can reach out to the support. You can do those things. But
for someone like you, you've made, if you and I sat down and worked out over how many years you fought, not just in the ring, I mean, but like sparred, how many sparring sessions you did, how many times you got hit in the head. You're pretty good. You're okay. You don't seem to be. You're not affected. Your memory's really good. You're remembering things that happen when you're 11.
Yeah. Thanks.
Remember names of people.
Thanks.
So you've hung in there pretty well. And there's a lot of talk around these days about contact sports. And about especially about boxing and how it affects people. Dementia, blah blah blah. You're in pretty good shape.
Yeah. All right. Thanks.
And do you ever think about that though?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Of course. I've had a scare before. So
I didn't recall you had a bit of scarring.
That's right. Yeah. No, but I had a broken eye socket in 2009, which I forgot to tell. But I'm forgetful. My dad's forgetful, and he wasn't a boxer. So, but I had a brain scan in 2009 after I got a broken eye socket against Vicente Escobedo, August 17. 2009, and that brain scan, the broken eye socket distorted the anatomy of the scan. Yeah. So then when I actually had the scan, but forgot to and showed it to the doctors, Johnny Lewis's doctor who was training me here in Sydney, and the doctor, Dr. John, I think his name was, I'd forgot to tell him
Lewis.
No, Johnny Lewis was
it was
No, not that John. No, Doctor. No, it wasn't that Johnny Lewis either. Yeah, I love him. He didn't see that. So, but from what he could see, it was no go sign. Because the scarring distorted the anatomy. So then I went on to get another scan, which went further into my brain to see, and it was just the scarring from the eye socket, the broken eye, which distorted. So I'm in the clear. In the lead up to my court things going on, when I had the problems, the judge said I have 3 months to sort treatment for my addiction to drugs and alcohol, and then 3 months to get a brain scan done. So when I got the brain scan done, I found out that my brain was healthy, if not healthier than the average male my age. So then my reservations about addiction were totally abolished. Then I just knew that all you got to do is stay healthy. All you got to do is look after yourself. Or give yourself the time of day, eat right, sleep, exercise. If problems persist, please see a doctor. It's just and
also don't overcomplicate your life with stupid stuff.
Yeah, keep it simple, stupid. Keep it
because it is about keeping it simple, and because often we complicate our lives with things where we compromise ourselves.
That's right.
Compromise our values.
And
then that can fuck you. Because you get guilty. You don't sleep properly. You sort of you feel bad about the shit you're doing. It's just. There's enough things in our lives to give us stress as it is. You don't need any more stress running around your system.
That's right.
And I think what you're doing, Michael, is inspirational to not just fighters or sports people, but inspirational to people who think that they've got a tough gig.
Yeah.
And really, it's not that tough at the end of the day. And we have a responsibility to ourselves.
Yeah, well, that's what I want. Like, thank you, because I want to empower other people. That's like part of my mission now. I want to look at what I did. Like, when you started boxing and the more you got better at it, you realize it's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's just, why didn't I think of that? It's like, it becomes like a real challenge to you. Then you start mastering the art of it. And that's the same principles that I pass on. I want my boxing course, my Katsidis Blueprint boxing system. I want that to be the best fundamental boxing program in the world, so people can learn and they can, so basic and the things, because when you're talking about looking after your mind and that bit of training, that boxing training you do is looking after yourself. I think that just taking that time out for yourself and just focusing on throwing the punch correctly and exerting it is a form of meditation, so to speak, because you're not thinking about what's happening on down the road or there's other stuff that's irrelevant.
You can't think about anything else.
No, you can't, or you're going to cop it, right? Yeah.
And how much of, and to final question though, Michael, how much of it is your Katsidis program, your blueprint, about not getting hit?
It's
as opposed to just like you used to fight. So, yes, you were always prepared to cop it, right?
Yeah.
How much is this about?
It's the number one. It's my number one thing. The key thing always. So when you throw a punch, the fastest point from A to B is from A to B.
The shortest distance.
Yeah. But so many times people go, all right, I'm going to punch now. Here it is. A, B, C, D, E. It's not A, B. It's or they go through this one. Here, I'm gonna hit you with this. No one's gonna keep the head still to cop the punch.
Yeah.
So I emphasize on just basic fundamentals and the things so people can get it, so they can get it. Doesn't matter who you are, all over the world, you can get it and you can do it and you can see it work, and then you know straight away if it's not working. Like I get them to send a video of themselves back so they can get a complete.
And you get many young kids. Many young kids still in the fight game. Like I know, I'm still a patron down here at Willow PCYC.
Yeah.
But we don't get many kids in there anymore. Boxing. We get a few girls.
Really?
We get a few girls and a few. Saturday's pretty good. We get a lot of kids down there, but like generally speaking, not like it used to be. Like
I think boxing's great. And you're right. There's not a lot.
Getting more girls though.
Yeah. Women's sport is picking up. It's and women are naturally more aggressive than guys, as you probably know. Like, they are,
and they're tough too.
Yeah, tough as. Yeah,
that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
And by the way, I think it's pretty amazing that I got to sit in front of Mike Katsidis.
Oh, thank you.
I really appreciate it, mate.
Thank you very
from
much.
one boxing fan to another boxing fan now, and from one Greek to another Greek, mate. Well done, mate.
Yeah, thank you, mate.
Good on you.
You're welcome.